In the ensuing weeks, Hamid steadfastly remained at her side. Every morning he greeted her with a warm attentiveness, occasionally delighting her with a surprise breakfast in bed, and at other times simply falling asleep in her room. Meanwhile, as Sami busied himself with preparations to ascend the throne, Liviana and Hamid found themselves with more precious time together. With each passing day, and in the absence of any sign of Hanya, Liviana began to sense that a long-awaited peace was finally settling over her life. One serene afternoon, while the couple luxuriated by the mansion's sparkling swimming pool, Liviana summoned the courage to engage Hamid in a serious conversation. "Hamid, our wedding day is fast approaching," she began, her tone both tender and resolute. He fixed her with an attentive gaze, silently urging her to continue. "Are you absolutely sure you want to marry me?" he inquired, his voice imbued with both hope and uncertainty. "Yes, I'm sure," she replied without a trace of hesitation. "Is it because of the inheritance?" she pressed gently, determined to confront the painful truth, even if it might sting. Hamid exhaled a deep, resigned sigh. "I yearn to be a responsible father to our child, to secure a radiant future for him or her," he confessed earnestly. In that poignant moment, it was evident that his words carried the weight of genuine intent. His extensive time spent with Liviana and the baby had woven deep emotional ties within him. Unbeknownst even to himself, he had also begun to cultivate a profound affection for Liviana. Accepting his heartfelt explanation, she murmured, "As long as you remain committed to our baby, and if you haven't yet fallen in love with me, I promise I will make you, eventually. You need not worry." Under his breath, almost inaudibly, Hamid whispered, "I already love you," though his tender admission went unnoticed by her. When the wedding day finally dawned, Liviana experienced a blend of overwhelming joy and a quiet, lingering sadness. Her heart ached at the thought that her family remained oblivious to her impending marriage and that she had yet to secure her father's blessing. The mere thought brought tears to her eyes. "Don't cry, madam, or you'll ruin your makeup," chided the stylist gently, dabbing her eyes with a soft tissue. "PGH, you're such a killjoy," Liviana muttered, though she managed a small smile as she adorned herself in a modest yet elegant Muslim wedding gown. Her long, lustrous black hair cascaded freely, the gentle curls at the ends adding a touch of grace. Seated in a chic hotel room, she waited with bated breath for Hamid to arrive and escort her to the reception hall, her heart pounding in anxious anticipation. What if he suddenly changed his mind and failed to appear? Just then the door swung open, revealing a videographer who stepped inside, soon followed by Hamid and Sami. A flurry of butterflies stirred within her, rendering her incapable of remaining still. "Relax, this is the day you've dreamed of, so don't panic. He isn't going to run away," Sami reassured her, his words laced with both empathy and an undercurrent of bittersweet resignation. Though it pained him deeply to witness the woman he cherished preparing to marry his own younger brother, he resolved to support her happiness, no matter the cost. Hamid then approached her with a gentle smile, tenderly took her hand, and placed a soft kiss upon it. Helping her to her feet, he then bestowed upon her a gentle kiss on the forehead. "You are the most beautiful bride I've ever seen," he murmured with heartfelt sincerity. Liviana's cheeks flushed with warmth as she softly replied, "Thank you." "Shall we?" Hamid asked, his grip on her hand firm and reassuring as he led her toward the wedding hall. Together they walked down a sumptuous red carpet elegantly scattered with white flower petals, while the entire venue dazzled with lavish decorations of pristine white blooms. "Babe, calm down, you're shaking," he murmured softly, noticing the subtle tremor coursing through her body. "I can't help it," she confessed, her voice taut with anxiety. Surrounded by an assembly of distinguished guests, she felt entirely out of place. "Remember, it's your day. The spotlight shines on you. Stand tall and be confident," he coaxed in a gentle tone. Gradually, her breathing steadied and a radiant smile blossomed as she faced the expectant crowd. With a steady heart, she began her vows. "I promise to keep fighting for us, believing that together we can conquer every challenge life hurls our way. I embrace you as you are today, tomorrow, and for all the days of our lives, as my husband. Even as time paints us with silver strands and soft wrinkles, I pledge to see you with the same adoring eyes and an ever-open heart. Today, I commit to honoring, respecting, supporting, and uplifting you. I vow to dream with you, celebrate with you, and walk beside you through all of life's journeys. Not just for this moment, or for a day or a year, but for always. I will love you forever." Tears shimmered in her eyes as each word carried the weight of her soul. Listening intently, Hamid discreetly wiped away his own tears before it was his turn to speak. "Babe, falling in love with you hasn't been like a free fall. It feels like stepping into a house and instantly knowing I'm home. Today, as I say I do, I mean it with every fiber of my being. I will take your hand and stand by you through every joy and every hardship. I devote myself to your happiness, your triumphs, and the sparkle of your smile. You make me laugh, you challenge my mind, and most of all, you fill my life with happiness. I choose you, and I promise to choose you every single day as my wife. I will love you in every way possible. I truly love you, babe." As Liviana's tears cascaded freely while they exchanged rings, Hamid gently slipped the band onto her finger. Leaning in to press his lips to hers, he lingered for a moment. In a burst of passion, she cupped the back of his neck and deepened the kiss, sparking cheers and exclamations from the gathered guests. The celebration flowed into an evening of dancing, feasting, and lively performances that entertained everyone at the reception. As the night wore on, the guests gradually departed in small, intimate groups. When the hall was finally empty, all eyes were drawn to a gleaming gold Lamborghini parked near the entrance. Hamid's father approached the newlyweds and handed his son a small package. Unwrapping it, Hamid discovered a key, and upon meeting his father's approving nod, the elder man said, "Go on, son, drive your wife home." Hamid grasped Liviana's hand and dashed toward the car. "Hey, dude, be careful," Sammy called out, watching in amusement as Hamid nearly dragged her along. With palpable excitement, the couple hopped into the car. Hamid revved the engine and they waved goodbye to the cheering cousins, blissfully unaware of an oncoming vehicle from the opposite direction. As they pulled away, a thunderous crash shattered the jubilant atmosphere. Sammy's eyes widened in horror. "Help!" he shouted, sprinting toward the wreckage of the mangled car. "Please, call an ambulance!" Meanwhile, parked by the roadside in a striking red car, a woman clad in black had been watching the couple leave the hotel. Her eyes blazed with a fierce mix of rage and hatred. After Hamid and Liviana had safely entered their new car, the woman in black ignited her engine and deliberately steered into their path. In an instant, screams, sobs, and the wail of sirens filled the air. Amid the twisted metal and shattered glass, both Liviana and Hamid lay motionless on the ground, gravely injured. Blood stained Liviana's once pristine white wedding gown as concerned onlookers rushed to help and paramedics hurriedly arrived on the chaotic scene. "Please, save my son," Hamid's mother pleaded, her voice breaking as they rushed him into the ambulance. In the chaos, Liviana lay unconscious while Hamid clung to life. Rescue workers labored for several agonizing minutes before finally extracting the other driver from her wrecked car. She was dead on impact. One of the responders read her identification card aloud, Marisa Rachman, and added somberly, "She appears to have been 1 month pregnant." Outside the operating room, Hamid's family gathered in anxious clusters. When the doctor finally emerged, they crowded around him. "Sir, madam, your son is now stable. There's no major internal damage, though he remains unconscious. We're hopeful he may awaken soon," the doctor reported in a measured tone. With urgency threading through his voice, Sammy interjected, "And the girl, she slipped into a coma from the impact. She might have missed her wedding, but her vital signs are steady. We'll have to wait and see when she regains consciousness." At that moment, Hamid's father collapsed into grief. "This is all my fault. I gave them that foolish car, and now we've lost our grandchild," he lamented, burying his face in his hands. "Don't think like that, father," Sammy consoled, though his words carried a hint of resigned acceptance. "This is fate." Just then, a police officer arrived with more grim news. The other driver in the red car is dead. Her name was Aliyah Rachman, the only daughter of the owner of a major telecom company, and she too was 1 month pregnant. The revelation rendered everyone momentarily speechless. 21 long days passed. Eventually, Hamid recovered, albeit with lingering cuts and bruises as painful reminders of the crash. Yet the question remained, what of Liviana, still confined to a hospital bed? With a heavy heart and a resolute spirit, Hamid decided to visit her once again in the ICU. As he leaned in close and spoke softly, he noticed a slight twitch in her thumb, a small, hopeful sign. The doctors hurried in for an examination. "Hamid, please be patient," one of them assured gently. "She's showing improvement. Perhaps later today or tomorrow she'll awaken. Prepare yourself for that moment." Relief washed over him at the hopeful news, and he remained steadfast by her side, pouring out his love in quiet, earnest whispers. "Babe, wake up. If you do, we'll fly to the Philippines to visit your family. We can even try for another baby," he said, his voice trembling with both hope and the dread of having to reveal the tragic loss of their child in the accident. Unsure of her potential reaction, he tenderly squeezed her hand and added with a soft chuckle, "If you wake up, I promise we'll travel all over the Philippines and I'll even eat that stinky bagong you made last time." The memory of her notorious raw mango dip, which had once taken over his entire room and sparked a playful argument that very day, brought a bittersweet smile to his face. Later that day, Liviana was finally moved from the ICU into a regular hospital room. Anna and several other servants, along with Hamid's parents, gathered around to celebrate her small yet significant step toward recovery, sharing plenty of food and quiet laughter. Amid the bustle of the celebration, a gentle voice suddenly broke through the chatter. "Where am I?" Liviana asked, pressing a hand against her aching head, her words a tender promise of awakening. Manang Anna heard Liviana's soft inquiry and immediately called out, "Liviana, you're in the hospital. Are you hurting anywhere?" as she rushed over. "Somebody, get a doctor," Sammy commanded urgently. Hamid hurried to her side and attempted to grasp her hand, but she brushed him away. "Babe, are you okay?" he asked, drawing her into a tentative embrace. "Thank God you're awake," Sammy blurted out before the gravity of the moment could sink in further. Struggling to sit up, Liviana pressed a hand to her abdomen, as if searching for a reassurance that was no longer there. With a trembling voice, she asked, "Where is my baby? Why is my belly so flat?" Hamid's mother stepped forward and gently took her hand. "Dear, the force of the accident caused you to miscarry," she explained, tears streaming down her face. In that heartbreaking moment, Liviana broke down into uncontrollable sobs. All Hamid could do was wrap his arms around her as the maids joined in her grief, their silent support echoing the shared despair. After Liviana managed to calm herself a little, Hamid began to explain everything. How his former girlfriend, Hania, had crashed into their car, how Liviana had been in a coma for 21 agonizing days, and every painful detail that had unfolded while she lay asleep. "I'm so sorry, babe. It's my fault. We lost our child," Hamid murmured, his voice heavy with regret. Liviana sat in a distant silence, her eyes vacant as she stared into space. Eventually, as the rest of the group departed, only Hamid and Liviana remained alone in the quiet room. "Now that the child is gone, there's nothing stopping me from leaving," Liviana said flatly, her eyes distant and devoid of hope. "Nothing stopping me from forgetting you, babe." "Don't say that," Hamid blurted out, his worry etched on his face. Her voice trembling, Liviana asked, "Then tell me, Hamid, now that the baby's gone, what reason do we have to stay together?" "We have to stay together because we're married and we love each other," he insisted, his words pleading for reconciliation. Memories flooded Liviana's mind, memories of heartbreak and the painful struggles it took for Hamid to come to love her. Sensing her turmoil, he pulled her into another embrace. "From now on, I'm never going to leave you or hurt you, babe. Just don't leave me," he whispered, kissing the crown of her head with tender urgency. After a while, Liviana lay back to rest, and Hamid gently helped her settle into a more comfortable position. A few minutes later, he climbed onto the bed beside her. With one raised eyebrow, she testily asked, "What are you doing?" "Not now," he replied softly, his tone laced with intimacy. "We can share that later, at home. Babe, all I want right now is to lie next to you." With a protective murmur, he added, "I'm afraid that if I leave, you might not wake up," drawing her even closer and resting her head on his arm. Though Liviana felt a twinge of embarrassment at his earnest words, his soothing promises soon eased her worry. "Don't worry, babe. Once you're discharged, we'll honeymoon in the Philippines," he murmured reassuringly. Wrapped in each other's arms, they drifted off to sleep, clinging to the fragile hope of a future together, despite the sorrow of the present. When Liviana awoke, Hamid was just emerging from the bathroom, his hair still damp as he gently dried it with a towel. "Good morning, my sunshine," he greeted her warmly, "Babe, look at your phone. It's been ringing non-stop these past few days." In that instant, memories of her family flooded back. Her heart began to race as she grabbed her phone, only to find it overwhelmed with missed calls and countless text messages. Without a moment's hesitation, she dialed her sibling. Within seconds, her brother's voice answered on the line. "Inai? Inai, it's he exclaimed urgently, as the sound of hurried footsteps accompanied the transfer of the phone. On the screen, Liviana's mother appeared, tears streaming down her face as she saw her daughter. "Child, thank goodness you called. We've been waiting for you for weeks. Your father and I have been so worried. What on earth is happening over there?" her mother pleaded, her voice heavy with concern. Liviana began to explain, "I'm fine," but her mother interjected sharply, "Why did you keep all of this from us? We were on the brink of losing our minds, not knowing where you were." A surge of anxiety gripped Liviana. "What do you mean?" she asked hesitantly, trying to understand their distress. "Your old high school classmate, our neighbor, told us that you ran away with someone," her mother revealed, while her father added, "That's why we couldn't reach you." Relief mixed with amusement and a tinge of worry as Liviana burst into laughter, even as a part of her fretted that they might have discovered more than she wished about Hamid's family situation. "That's impossible! Inai, I'd never abandon you," she reassured them with genuine warmth. Eager to bridge the distance, she then activated her phone's camera, showing them the IV drip and the hospital bed, offering a glimpse of her current surroundings. In the background, however, the unmistakable sight of a shirtless Hamid nonchalantly brushing his hair drew immediate attention. "Child, who is that?" her father asked, his tone laden with concern. Liviana's heart pounded as she hesitated, caught between the need to be honest and the fear of their reaction. Should she reveal everything now? Would they be upset or happy for her? Before she could gather her thoughts, an abrupt, piercing beep from the medical equipment interrupted the conversation. The sound carried her back to Hamid's earlier promise. "Babe, wake up. If you do, we'll visit your family in the Philippines. We can even try for another baby." Those words struck her deeply, a painful reminder of their recent loss. Liviana recalled the agonizing moment when she discovered her belly was no longer rounded, how her tears flowed freely, and how Hamid's tears mingled with hers. In that dark moment, she had asked him, "What reason did we have to stay together?" And he had steadfastly replied, "We belong together because we're married and in love." Shifting the phone's camera back to reveal the IV setup, Liviana declared with trembling determination, "I'm telling you, no matter what happens, I won't abandon you." Her parents' eyes shifted once more to the image of Hamid, bare-chested and calmly brushing his hair. "Child, who is that man?" her father asked again, his voice a mixture of concern and incredulity. Well, Liviana stammered, her uncertainty evident. "Tell the truth, child," her mother pressed firmly. "Why are you in the hospital with a half-naked man? You disappeared for 22 days without answering our calls, and now this?" All right, I'll explain," Liviana began, her voice trembling with both vulnerability and resolve. "When I first arrived here, I did not end up working as a housemaid. I sold myself to the royal family." Her mother gasped in shock. "Oh my God, child," she cried, before quickly interjecting, "Please, let me finish." Taking a calming breath, Liviana continued in a softer tone. "I pretended to be his fiancée. And from that very day, we experienced so much together. We became inseparable, and eventually we fell deeply in love. Our love even bore fruit." Her siblings erupted in excitement, exclaiming, "8! We're going to have a niece or nephew." But suddenly, Liviana's joyous expression shattered as tears began to stream down her face. "What's wrong, child?" her father asked, concern heavy in his voice. Through her sobs, Liviana managed to explain, "On our wedding day, we were in a terrible accident. My husband's ex crashed into our car, and the force of the collision caused me to lose our baby." Her parents' faces crumpled as they joined in her grief, tears mingling in shared sorrow. "I was in a coma for 21 days and only woke up last night," she added softly, her voice barely a whisper. "Child, are you in pain right now?" her mother asked gently, dabbing away her tears. "I haven't been able to sleep well. I'm constantly feeling uneasy," she admitted. "I'm okay now, and I've been recovering with the support and care of Hamid's family. Liviana reassured her, trying to offer a glimmer of hope amid the heartbreak. At that moment, Liviana sensed Hamid's presence approaching. Seeing the tears still glistening on her cheeks, he leaned in and asked tenderly, "Babe, are you okay?" Through her tears, she managed a nod. "Yes. Could you please greet them? I've already told them about us," she said as she handed him her phone. Hamid stepped forward, his eyes alight with a mix of eagerness and nervousness. "Good morning, mother, of Babe, father, and sisters," he offered in his halting English, doing his best to introduce himself with humility and respect. "Good morning," they replied shyly. "I'm Hamid. I'm truly sorry that we did not ask for your blessing before we married your daughter," he admitted sincerely, his voice reflecting both regret and genuine affection. Before Liviana could add any further explanation, her siblings interjected excitedly from behind their mother. "8! Your husband's so handsome!" "Child, you're being too forward," her mother chided gently, a playful admonition amidst the tension. Liviana's father cleared his throat, and the atmosphere shifted to one of solemnity. "I understand your situation," he said haltingly in English, "but I do not want you to think that you bought my daughter's soul." Worry was evident in his eyes, as he feared that Hamid might regard her with disdain given the circumstances. "No, sir, it's nothing like that," Hamid replied formally, his tone steady and respectful. "I love your daughter, and I have nothing but sincere, honorable intentions." As the father and Hamid continued their conversation in quiet, measured tones, Liviana stepped back, allowing them the space to speak alone. After a while, Hamid returned to the room with a broad grin, and soon after the doctor arrived to check on Liviana, leaving behind detailed instructions and medication. Before long, several maids entered to pack up her belongings. Hamid gently lifted Liviana from her wheelchair and helped her into the car. "Love, are you ready to go home?" he asked in that tender tone that never failed to make her blush with its endearment. "Why are you staring at me like that?" he teased, noticing her shy, almost guilty gaze. "It's as if I've done something wrong. It all feels so surreal, like I'm living in a dream," Liviana admitted softly. "You're taking care of me, making me feel cherished and calling me love. I can hardly believe that after all my struggles and heartbreak something so beautiful could emerge," she added, tears beginning to well in her eyes once more. "Hey love, don't cry," he murmured, gently wiping her tears away. "If your father sees you like this, he'll think I've upset you." Pressing a soft kiss to her forehead, he continued, "I should be the grateful one. You were so patient, waiting until I loved you back." Once the bodyguards had loaded everything, a convoy of vehicles rolled out, one van carrying the guards, followed by another packed with luggage and the maids. During the ride, Liviana and Hamid sat close together, exchanging jokes and sharing stories. Yet, she couldn't help but notice that they were taking an unfamiliar route. Certainly not the usual way home. She assumed it must be a shortcut. As they passed through a large gate, confusion suddenly overtook her. "Babe, I think the driver took the wrong gate," she said, glancing around nervously. Hamid said nothing in response. Instead, he opened the car door, silently stepped around to help her out, and guided her into the house despite her repeated, gentle nudges. Just then, the grand front door burst open, and a chorus of voices erupted in a joyful greeting. "Welcome home, newlyweds!" Liviana's jaw dropped in astonishment. Nearly all of Hamid's cousins, the ones to whom she had grown particularly close, had gathered to surround them, cheering enthusiastically. Hamid's parents embraced her warmly, and in a corner, she spotted Sammy, casually sipping wine. She sauntered over to him with a playful pout. "Hey, you never visited me at the hospital," she chided lightly. "I was busy," he replied coolly, before standing up and walking away. "So rude," she muttered under her breath. "Kiss, kiss," one of the cousins shouted as someone tapped a spoon against a wine glass, and soon the others joined in with wide, cheerful grins. Hamid then pulled Liviana close and pressed a gentle kiss to her lips as everyone applauded. After a while, most of the guests departed, per the doctor's advice that Liviana not exert herself too much. Feeling exhausted, she turned to Hamid and said, "Babe, let's go home now. I'm utterly drained." But he burst into laughter. "What are you talking about, love? You mean seeing my parents coming over?" she repeated, a mix of exasperation and disbelief in her voice. "No," I said, "can we go home? I want to rest. she insisted, her tone tinged with annoyance. Hamid's mother chuckled warmly from nearby. "Darling, this is your house, a wedding gift from your uncle Alejandro, your father's brother," she explained, leaving Liviana momentarily speechless. Spinning around in a flurry of astonishment, she asked, "It's not a mansion, is it?" Her eyes widened as she struggled to comprehend the revelation. "Yes, babe," Hamid replied with a playful smirk. "This is ours." A surge of excitement buzzed through Liviana. Who wouldn't be amazed at receiving an entire mansion as a wedding present? In a teasing inner thought, she mused that she could marry him over and over again, if it meant living in such splendor. "Hamid, come on, let Liviana see the rest of the house," his father suggested kindly, excusing himself and his wife to head home. Eagerly, Liviana dashed around the main floor, peeking behind sumptuous curtains and flinging them wide to reveal hidden corners. The mansion was enormous. 3 stories of sheer grandeur. Even if she were to invite her entire family, there would be more than enough room for everyone. Finally, Hamid led her to their private quarters via a small, elegant elevator. She nearly squealed in delight at the sight of the futuristic control panel, its lights dancing in anticipation. Once on their floor, Hamid entered a code, and the doors slid open to reveal a suite that rivaled a 5-star hotel. Overwhelmed with glee, Liviana hopped onto the bed and began bouncing with childlike delight. "Love, stop that," he chided gently, though his eyes sparkled with amusement. "You need to take care of yourself." Before she could protest, Hamid reached for her hand and scooped her onto his lap in one smooth, affectionate motion. "I'm so happy, babe," she confided, her voice soft yet filled with passion. "You know, I could live in a tiny hut if it meant being with you, but getting a house like this? I've always dreamed of something magnificent like it." "That's another dream fulfilled," he replied, smiling tenderly as he gazed into her eyes. In that moment, she leaned in for a kiss. As their lips met, the embrace deepened, and warmth surged through both of them. His hands began to explore her gently, caressing her with a tenderness that spoke of unspoken promises. Then, all of a sudden, he abruptly broke off the kiss and in a startling move tossed her onto the bed. Startled, Liviana braced herself. "No!" he cried out suddenly, his voice loud and filled with distress. She shrieked in surprise at being thrown down, her heart pounding as she demanded, "What's wrong now?" with palpable alarm. "Did you hurt your back, love?" he asked in a shaky tone, pacing the room and clutching his head as if gripped by panic. Before the tension could escalate further, a nearby doctor interjected calmly. "It's not good for us to do that right now. You still need rest and time to recover." Hamid appeared visibly agitated, his normally composed demeanor replaced by an almost panicky urgency as he absorbed the doctor's warning. "Calm down, babe," Liviana murmured softly as she approached him, pressing a gentle kiss to his cheek. Suddenly, a startling thought struck her. "Oh my God, where are my clothes? I don't have anything with me here," she exclaimed. The realization that she'd left all her garments at the other mansion, sending a jolt of panic through her. In that moment, the room fell into a heavy silence as she grappled with the whirlwind of emotions. Relief over the generous new home they had received, the warmth of the tender moments they'd shared, and now the raw, unexpected panic of being half-dressed in this unfamiliar space. Hamid's eyes sparkled mischievously as he teased, "Love, you can sleep naked." Liviana rolled her eyes in exasperation and strode purposefully toward the bathroom. "You pervert," she huffed, pushing open the door. Inside, her eyes widened in astonishment at the sight of an enormous walk-in closet, overflowing with brand-new clothes, shoes, and accessories, many still sporting their tags. One item in particular caught her eye, a scandalously skimpy piece of lingerie hanging on the bathroom door. Designed to reveal almost everything. Furious and mortified, she called out, "Hamid, get in here." He appeared immediately, his expression innocent yet tinged with playful mischief. "Yes, love? Are you pleased with my preparations for our first night here?" he asked, a teasing grin dancing on his lips. "You pervert," Liviana barked, slamming the door behind her in frustration. As his laughter echoed down the hall, she muttered under her breath about having forgotten her towel. "Great, now I have to go out there naked," she grumbled. Realizing she had no other option, Liviana tiptoed out of the shower, dripping wet, and made her way through the spacious walk-in closet completely unclothed. In the vast room, she failed to notice Hamid calmly seated in a corner, absorbed in reading a magazine. When he cleared his throat, Liviana gasped in shock, losing her footing on the slick floor and nearly slipping. In a swift, protective gesture, Hamid caught her before she fell. "You filthy pervert," she yelled again, half laughing in exasperation, despite the absurdity of the situation. "Get out, love. Don't be shy. I'm your husband and I've seen your body 1,000,000 times, he teased, his voice light as he yawned. Then gently wrapped her in a robe and stole a quick, affectionate kiss before stepping away. "Let's sleep," he said casually, as if nothing unusual had just happened. Determined to reclaim her dignity, and perhaps even exact a little playful revenge, Liviana set about transforming herself. She slipped into the scandalous lingerie, blow-dried her hair until it shimmered, and doused herself in a fragrant perfume. If intimacy was off the table for the moment, she resolved to tease him mercilessly and watch him squirm with anticipation. With a sultry confidence, she sauntered back into the bedroom, striking her best model pose in the doorway. Hamid's eyes went wide in astonishment and beads of sweat formed on his forehead, even though the air conditioning was blasting, testifying to the irresistible allure of her bold, teasing comeback. Suppressing her laughter, Liviana slowly strutted toward the bed, each deliberate step laden with playful mischief. Suddenly alert, Hamid sat up and edged away as she approached, practically scooting toward the headboard. With a cheeky glint in her eye, she crawled onto the mattress, moving on all fours toward him. His face flushed crimson as he looked utterly flustered, like a cat backed into a corner, when her hand playfully grazed his thigh, barely inches from his groin. In a startled burst, he bolted upright, his reaction a mix of shock and amused exasperation. Unable to contain her mirth any longer, Liviana exploded into mischievous giggles. She rolled onto her back and pulled the sheets over herself with a smug grin of triumph. "Good night, babe," she teased softly, closing her eyes as she basked in the glow of her playful victory. Moments later, Hamid stormed into the bathroom. When he re-emerged, he was dressed casually in boxers and a crisp white t-shirt. "Let's sleep, love," he said, stretching out beside her and leaning over to press a gentle kiss to her forehead. His tone was warm, yet laced with a hint of warning. "If you do that again, I'm not sure I can stop myself. Next time I'll devour you," he murmured, drawing her into his arms with an intensity that spoke of both passion and playful threat. The following morning, Liviana awoke to the tender sensation of his hand roaming gently over her chest. Remembering that he was sharing the bed with her, she smiled softly at the comforting warmth of his presence. Turning toward him, she pressed delicate kisses to his closed eyelids and whispered, "Good morning, Mr. Karim. I want to sleep a little longer, babe," before letting her eyes flutter shut once more. "You need to eat and take your medicine," Hamid reminded her affectionately as he tugged her upright. Complying with his gentle insistence, she slipped into a soft robe and followed him downstairs. As soon as the elevator doors opened, they emerged like a pair of lovebirds, affectionately pecking at each other, a display of intimacy that startled poor Menang Ana, who had been waiting in the foyer. "Goodness gracious, you two are like teenagers," Ana exclaimed with genuine surprise. "You startled me, dear." "Ah, Menang Ana were newlyweds," Liviana joked, her tone light and teasing. "I hope you don't mind. Anyway, go eat. I made your favorite adobo," Ana said with a bright grin. "Share it with your husband. I'm sure he'll love it too." "Finally, adobo. I've missed it," Liviana cheered, her face lighting up with excitement as she rushed toward the kitchen. Pausing in the kitchen, she marveled at the luxurious appliances, some finished in gleaming gold with matching gold cutlery and plates. The table setting looked almost priceless, exuding a refined elegance. Yet when she sat down, the vastness of the enormous table made it feel oddly awkward for just the two of them to dine in such splendid isolation. "Love, can I ask a favor?" she said softly, turning to Hamid. "Anything," he replied without hesitation. "Then invite everyone to eat with us. There's too much food here for just the two of us," she suggested with a playful smile, gesturing toward the bustling household staff and the ever-present driver. He shrugged. "Sure, babe," he agreed, recalling how Ana had always been a familiar presence throughout his childhood. Though he hesitated for a moment, worried about possibly offending Hamid, he quickly reassured her. Before long, Liviana asked Manang to gather everyone. Before they knew it, the entire staff, all proudly Filipino, had joined them at the table, and the meal blossomed into a lively affair filled with warm chatter and joyful laughter. After the meal, Hamid pulled Liviana outside to reveal a surprise. Following him to the backyard, she froze at the sight of a built-in playground, complete with swings, slides, and even a quaint little playhouse. Tears welled in her eyes as the sight painfully reminded her of the baby they had lost. "Don't cry," Hamid said gently, his voice soft and reassuring. "Our baby is happy in heaven. We will have another child someday, and I promise I will protect both of you." Taking a seat on the swing, Liviana watched as Hamid stood behind her, giving her gentle pushes so she could soar a little higher. Suddenly, someone came running toward them, phone in hand, interrupting the tender moment. "Liviana, your phone's been ringing for a while. I think it's your family," the device announced. Liviana immediately answered, "Annie, how are you?" while noticing Hamid lean in to wave at the screen. In the background, her siblings squealed at the sight of her handsome husband. "What's up with you kids? Stop bothering their mother," her mother scolded playfully. Liviana laughed, but then she realized her father was missing from the call. "Is something wrong there, Annie?" "Yes, child," her mother replied, her tone shifting to concern. "Your father's upset and wants both of you to come home. He won't speak to you until you bring your husband here in person." "Don't worry, I promise. Hamid's working on our visas. We can probably be there the day after tomorrow," Liviana reassured her. Just then, a loud crash and a commotion erupted on the other line and the call abruptly dropped. Panic seized Liviana and she frantically redialed, tears threatening to fall. "Babe, I'm scared. I don't know what happened," she confided to Hamid. He gently guided her back inside to help calm her down. Finally, her phone rang again. "Annie, what was that noise?" Liviana demanded. Her mother explained with a laugh. "Your father heard your voice, got so worked up, and flung a cooking pot at us." "And I was worried sick," Liviana complained, hastily wiping away her tears. "Anyway, we're booking our tickets. We'll be there soon," her mother added eagerly. "Really? That's wonderful news, child," her mother continued. "I'll do a big cleanup of the house and change out our curtains." After the call ended, Liviana turned to Hamid with a soft smile. "Love, my parents are excited to meet you." Hamid frowned with concern. "Are you sure it's safe for you to travel? Shouldn't you rest a little longer?" "I feel better now," Liviana insisted firmly. "After the accident, I need some fresh air. Besides, I want to see my family." Hamid sniffed playfully. "Does this mean I stink? Is the air here polluted?" "Stop being silly," she teased, rolling her eyes at his joking tone. They bantered for a few moments until lunchtime, when they decided to visit Hamid's parents' mansion to announce their upcoming trip to the Philippines. Liviana opted for a simple shirt and pants ensemble, carrying the handbag that Hamid had thoughtfully gifted her. When she stepped out of the closet, Hamid couldn't help but gape in admiration. "Wow, love! Even dressed so simply, you're beautiful," he said, making her blush. At the mansion, Hamid's parents awaited them, eager to welcome their son and new daughter-in-law home. "How are you? We missed you, darling," his mother greeted warmly. "We're fine, and she's recovering well," Hamid added, as Liviana shyly pressed kisses to their cheeks. After explaining their plan to visit Liviana's family, Hamid's parents gave their blessing, though they insisted on having bodyguards accompany them for extra safety. Liviana didn't mind the extra security. Needing to use the restroom, she ventured toward the bedroom she had used on her initial stay. The room still retained its familiar look. But as she was about to leave, she heard a muffled moan coming from the upstairs hallway. Curiosity overcame her, and she crept closer, peering around a corner. To her horror, she nearly choked. A woman clad in a scandalously short skirt was pressed against the wall, moaning as a man buried his face in her chest. "Hurry, Daddy, let's go to your room," the woman moaned breathlessly. Horrified, Liviana's heart pounded as she realized the man was Sammy. Desperate to escape the scene, she tiptoed back toward the bedroom, hoping to avoid being seen. "You can pass by," Sammy said casually, not pausing his intimate moment as his hand slid under the woman's dress. "I'm sorry to disturb you, Sammy," Liviana whispered, her face burning with embarrassment as she scurried past them. Downstairs, unable to find any sign of Hamid, Liviana wandered into the mansion's garden. As she admired the vibrant greenery, a rough hand suddenly grabbed her arm. Before she could react, an aggressive, unloving kiss was forced upon her lips. Shocked and furious, she struggled fiercely, pushing him away as her mind raced. This was utterly unacceptable. Finally breaking free, she slapped him hard. "What the hell are you doing?" she screamed in disbelief. Sammy lowered his head, one cheek burning red with shame. "Aren't you satisfied with the girl upstairs? Now you need me too," he sneered. Liviana spat bitterly, her voice trembling with hurt and anger. "You're pathetic. I trusted you. I thought you were better than this." "Is that so?" Sammy asked, his voice trembling with a mix of hurt and longing. "Why can't you love me? I'd never hurt you. I can be whoever you want." "I'm sorry." But no matter how he pleaded, her heart remained unmoved. "I love your brother, and that can't be undone," she replied, tears gathering in her eyes. Although she cared for Sammy and cherished many of his qualities, her heart had never fluttered for him the way it did for Hamid. "Is there really no way you could ever love me?" he begged, desperation tinging his words. Unable to meet his gaze, Liviana shook her head slowly. "I can't, Sammy. Let's just keep things as they are. At least we won't lose each other this way." A single tear rolled down Sammy's cheek before he hastily tried to hide it. At that precise moment, Hamid stepped out from behind a doorway. Having overheard every word exchanged between Sammy and Liviana, he now knew with certainty that her love for him was genuine. Quietly he approached, slipping an arm around Liviana's shoulders. With a light-hearted tone, as if nothing had transpired, he remarked, "Looks like you two were having a serious chat." The room fell silent as his words hung in the air, leaving Liviana to wonder what the future might truly hold for all of them. Liviana quickly answered, "No, we were just catching up," she added, determined to diffuse any tension that might lead to conflict between the brothers. "Come on, inside, love. Bro, let's eat," Hamid offered cheerfully. "No thanks, I'm full," Sammy replied curtly before walking off into the mansion. Later, after joining Hamid's parents for a brief meal, Liviana and Hamid returned to their own mansion. That night in bed, as Liviana rested her head on Hamid's arm while he gently stroked her hair, he murmured, "Love, I'm so lucky you chose me, especially when another man was an option." Tilting her face upward, Liviana whispered, "The truth is, I've barely done anything to deserve your love. I've caused you so many tears. I was so foolish to hurt you, when all you ever did was love and understand me. I'm so sorry, love." Moved by her sincerity, Hamid hugged her tightly. "Stop it now, you'll make me cry again," she scolded softly, pressing her lips to his in a tender kiss. They woke early the next day for their flight. Liviana practically sprang from her seat as soon as the plane landed. Her heart raced with anticipation to see her parents again after nearly 2 years apart. Hamid grabbed her hand as she hurried off. "Love, wait for me," he reminded her playfully. "You do have a husband, remember?" She giggled sheepishly. Standing together in the arrivals area, they waited for Liviana's parents, but there was no sign of them. After about 20 minutes, Hamid asked impatiently, "Love, where are they?" Suddenly, a loud yawn sounded from behind them as Liviana's mother, father, and sister appeared, their warm smiles dispelling any lingering tension and welcoming them home. "Child, you've gotten so lovely," her mother said warmly as she enveloped Liviana in a tight hug. "We've actually been here a while, but we couldn't spot you in the crowd. We didn't recognize you at first, not until we noticed your Arab-looking husband," she teased. I was afraid you wouldn't come," Liviana admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course we'd come, silly, come on, Leon's waiting with the Jeep," her mother replied, ushering her along with a bright smile. Liviana cringed and quickly glanced at Hamid. "Any of all the vehicles to rent, why a jeepney?" she asked, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "Because it's cheaper, child," her mother replied matter-of-factly, a twinkle of humor in her eyes. Hamid murmured, "Love, what kind of car is that?" She sighed lightly. "That's a jeepney, love. It's the cheapest we can afford," she explained. Before long, they all crammed into the jeepney. Liviana and Hamid sat side by side. Her mother took the front along with Leon and 3 bodyguards. The open windows allowed a rush of hot air to blast in, so much so that even Hamid looked as if he might strip off his polo shirt. Suddenly, the jeepney stalled. The driver hopped out and lifted the hood, tinkering with rattling parts. "I'm sorry, folks, the engine overheated. I don't think I can take you any farther," he said with a grimace. "Workuya? Why here?" Liviana groaned, clearly exasperated. "What's wrong?" Hamid asked, a note of worry creeping into his tone. "Love, we're stuck," she complained, pressing a hand to her forehead in frustration. With a discreet signal to Emiliana, Hamid watched as she slipped away. Minutes later, a new air-conditioned van pulled up, its seats still wrapped in plastic. "Love, let's go, guys. Load the luggage," Hamid instructed. Feeling a little shy about the modest ride, Liviana's mother and sister climbed in without complaint. "Wow, sis, your husband's so resourceful," her sister whispered admiringly. The remainder of the journey passed peacefully. When they finally arrived, Liviana nearly didn't recognize the small hut of her childhood. It had been rebuilt into a modest yet decent two-story concrete home, a long-time dream come true. Overcome with emotion, tears welled in her eyes. Her mother saw her standing there and quickly embraced her. "We owe all of this to you, child," she said softly. "You've always been so good to us, never hesitating to sacrifice for your family. Thank you." "Now, let's go inside, love, Lore," Liviana said, leading Hamid by the hand. "It's small compared to your mansion, but the people here will make you happy." Hamid's hands were damp with nerves as he dreaded meeting her father. Inside, however, it was only her younger siblings who rushed over to greet them enthusiastically. Scanning the room, Hamid soon spotted her father sitting expressionlessly on the sofa. Liviana dashed over and hugged him tightly. "Hey, don't be mad. He's not a bad person, he really does love me," she pleaded, her eyes shining with hope and determination. Her father rose and said I was mad, though his tone quickly turned more serious. "I just want to inspect this man." Poor Heike looked genuinely alarmed. Her father reached out for a handshake, and unsure of what to do, Heike shook it vigorously. When her father didn't let go, Heike awkwardly leaned in and planted a quick kiss on his hand. The entire family burst into laughter. Even her father couldn't help but chuckle. "That's not what I expected, but it works," he laughed, amused by Heike's confusion. Liviana explained. "Here in the Philippines, to show respect, you take an elder's hand and bring it to your forehead." Blushing, Heike carefully copied the gesture. "We welcome you as one of us because you've treated my daughter well," her father said, resting a reassuring hand on Heike's shoulder. In that moment, all of Heike's apprehension melted away. He stammered, "Liviana is easy to love. Thank you for raising her so well, Eni and Iai." In his nervousness, he mixed up his words. "Father" became "Atai liver." Liviana giggled and teased, "Love at means liver." They then headed to the dining area, where everyone attempted to speak the little English they knew in order to include Haki in the conversation, creating a lively, heartwarming scene of family reunion and acceptance. 1 week passed, and Haki grew accustomed to Filipino dishes and the relentless heat. "Love, I heard the beach here is beautiful. Let's all go," he said one afternoon while relaxing under a mango tree. "Sure, let's invite your family," Liviana agreed. The next day, they set off for a resort on a 3-day outing. That first night, everyone crowded into the pool, joking, grilling food, and joining in a spirited boodle fight feast, all while sharing a few drinks. They slept in late after such a fun-filled evening. Around 1 in the afternoon the following day, Liviana woke to find Haki was nowhere to be seen. In a hurry, she went to her parents' room, where her mother simply shrugged and said, "He and your father went snorkeling. Let him explore for a while. Come have lunch," then led her to the outdoor dining area. Noticing the staff carrying heaps of flowers, Liviana remarked, "There must be a big event going on." "Yeah, maybe a seminar," her mother fibbed with a smile. "Nothing major, just fancy enough for a seminar," Liviana commented, taking in the elaborate decor. Her mother merely smiled in return. After they finished eating, her mother insisted on returning to their suite to rest, complaining of aches and pains. Evening drew near, and still there was no sign of Haki. Liviana began to worry, but her mother reassured her that it was normal for him to roam around a bit. A little later, Liviana's siblings burst into the room holding a white dress. "Hey, try this on! It's a gift from me," one of them said. "We match!" her sister squealed, sporting a similar design. while even their mother wore a matching style in a different color. Their odd behavior set off Liviana's suspicions, yet they gently coaxed her along to a spot near the pool. There, as the setting sun bathed everything in warm, golden light and the area was beautifully decorated with flowers and lanterns, she finally saw Haki, standing in a floral print beach shirt. "What's going on?" Liviana asked her mother, suspicion creeping into her voice. "Ask your husband," her mother replied with a knowing smile. As Liviana approached, a faint memory surfaced. A similar moment 9 months ago, when she had stood before this same man, her heart pounding with uncertainty. She bit her lip, fighting back tears. This time, though, she knew exactly how she felt. As she neared, Hamid greeted her with a tender kiss on the cheek, and their friends and relatives erupted into cheers. "Love, you don't have to do this," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You already proposed." Shaking his head, Hamid took the microphone. "Your family deserves to witness my love for you," he announced, his deep voice steady. "Love, when I first saw you, I never expected things to go this far. I thought you'd leave eventually. I never imagined you'd love me or stand by me through heartbreak and pain. I was foolish, chasing after other women while you sacrificed and waited for me to notice you. Once I did, I knew you were the one. Thank you for loving me unconditionally and for changing me for the better. So, for the second time, Liviana Quero de Cruz, will you marry me?" With that, he dropped to one knee, overwhelmed by emotion. Liviana couldn't hold back her tears. She glanced at her mother, who was crying just as much, and then turned back to Hamid, nodding tearfully. "Yes, love." The moment her answer left her lips, her parents rushed forward to embrace them both, wrapping them in the warmth of family and love. 2 months later, the couple celebrated their beach wedding on Ban Island, a breathtaking private island. Hamid's parents attended along with Sammy, who, to everyone's relief, seemed much happier, even flashing Liviana his old familiar grin as they chatted. The celebration concluded with an intimate family gathering where both sides were invited to share a few words. Hamid went first. Taking a deep breath, he spoke from his heart. "When I was a kid, most of my nannies were Filipino. I grew up witnessing their patience and dedication, all working hard to build better lives for their families here in the Philippines. Back then, I once dreamed of marrying a Filipina, but as I grew older, that dream faded, until I met you, my love. Now, I'm standing here, making that childhood dream a reality. Thank you to Ini and Ei for raising such a wonderful woman. And thank you, Baba and Ei, for allowing her to be mine. I love you, and I promise to be with you forever." As he handed the microphone to Liviana, he quickly wiped away his tears, chuckling at himself. Liviana took a steadying breath before speaking. "I used to think about dreams," she began softly, "but I never even dreamed of this." She paused, glancing around at the faces of the people who had shaped her life. "I was just a simple girl from the province, never even made it to college. All I ever wanted was to help my family. This is beyond anything I could have imagined. I often ask God what I did to deserve so many blessings," she said, her voice trembling slightly. As she looked at her parents and siblings, she saw tears welling in their eyes. "But I pressed on, and, with each passing day, I'm getting used to it. Having a super delicious, lovable husband and in-laws who are so kind and awesome. If I listed all the good adjectives, we'd be here all night." Laughter rippled through the group. Liviana dabbed at her tears and smiled. "As we prepare to be parents, I hope you'll continue guiding us on how to raise our child." Then, with a playful smirk, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pregnancy test stick. Gasps filled the air. Hamid's eyes went wide in shock before he rushed over, wrapping her in a tight embrace. "Thank you, love. I love you," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion as tears of joy streamed down his cheeks. Years later, they chose to settle in the Philippines, where they started their own business. Life moved smoothly, and Liviana finally pursued her college degree in business management. One lazy afternoon, their twins, Summer and Winter, came racing into the room, their little faces alight with excitement. "Mom, Summer's saying something about Uncle Emiliana and Aunt Liana," Winter tattled dramatically. "Summer, Winter, stop gossiping and finish your food," Liviana scolded, shaking her head at their antics. "But, Mom, I'm telling the truth. I saw him kissing Auntie Lian," Summer insisted, his small voice unwavering. Just then, Hamid entered the room, and the twins immediately abandoned their mission, rushing over to him for a hug. Liviana walked over, watching her husband with an affectionate smile. Without a word, she pulled him into a warm kiss. "I love you so much, love," she whispered. Hamid smiled deeply, his eyes filled with warmth, gratitude, and the kind of love that had only grown stronger over the years. And that's the beautiful journey of Liviana and Hamid, a story of love that conquered pain, loss, and uncertainty. Through every hardship, they chose to stay by each other's side, proving that love isn't just about the happy moments but also about weathering the storms together. From overcoming heartbreak to embracing forgiveness, they showed us the power of patience, perseverance, and faith. Their story reminds us that even in the darkest of times, love can bring healing and hope. It teaches us that true love grows not from perfection, but from the willingness to accept each other's flaws and fight for each other, no matter what life throws their way. So, if there's one lesson to take away from this story, it's this. Love isn't just about finding the right person, it's about becoming the right person for each other. No matter how complicated the journey gets, love finds a way to prevail. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. And let us know in the comments, what did you learn from Liviana and Hamid's story? Until next time, keep believing in the power of love.